We're live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 68 of the FilmBrony podcast. I am, of course, Nick Canino, the guy in charge of this, and with me is a guest that created the podcast. So, introduce yourself.
Well, it's been a while, but in the near the end of March, but finally we're getting done with 2025, and thank goodness for that.
Yeah, thank goodness. And we're just gonna go over our remaining reviews that we have for 2025, and then we'll talk about our 20. We'll talk about 20 of the best movies that we both saw in 2025. So, hope you guys. So, yeah, you guys are in for what will be one hell of a show. So without further ado, Søren, do you have any Blu-rays to show this week?
Just the one, Donnie Darko.
I have one too, and it's the one you just showed on your podcast last week, Predator Badlands.
That's a good one.
It is. All right, enough dilly-dallying. Let's get to enough dilly-dallying. Let's get to the movie reviews, the last remaining ones. I'm gonna start off with the film that came out over the summer, late summer 2025. It was the film that was on my radar, but I didn't get a chance to see until now. It's called Lurker. So what Lurker is about, it stars Archie Matawick, who also produced the movie, and Theodore Pellerin, as well as Sonny Solijic from Jonah Hill's mid-90s, and it's about a retail employee who infiltrates the inner circle of an artist on the verge of stardom. As he gets closer to the budding music star, access to proximity become a matter of life and death. So yeah, that's what the film was about. So going into Lurker, I didn't know what to expect other than the synopsis I read for the film and the fact that Sonny Solijic from mid-90s is in this as a supporting role, and the fact that I saw a poster for this at the Gene Siskel Film Center when I was there back in October at the Chicago Film Festival. And thank goodness that I went in completely blind because I absolutely love Lurker very much. Lurker is an unnerving yet intriguing and haunting character study on fame and obsession in the digital age that not only left me feeling uncomfortable and in a good way, but also on the edge of my seat throughout as well. We rarely get films like this that is meant to make you feel uncomfortable and unnerved yet intrigued, and movies like Lurker are why I love seeing movies that do those things, because watching this was nothing more than an enthralling experience. The story felt well-structured and intriguing. Alex Russell's directing was excellent, and the same could be said with the screenplay he wrote for the film, especially since not only did it have sharp dialogue and the characters feeling like real people, but it also does a brilliant job examining its themes on fame and obsession in the digital age. The acting was terrific. Theodore Pellerin gives out such a compelling lead performance as Matthew, and Archie Matawick was fantastic as Oliver, especially with how much charisma he brings to his character. Havana Rose Liu and Sonny Solijic are also great in the film as well. The score felt eerie and haunting. The cinematography was fantastic. It's deliberately well-paced throughout. The tension felt uncomfortably real, especially with how the film shows the unhealthy and toxic dynamic between the two lead characters. And the way it ended felt satisfying. My only issue I did have with the film is that there were a couple of editing choices in the first and second act that did feel a bit uneven at times. But that's really it. Overall, Lurker features two compelling performances by Theodore Pellerin and Archie Matawick, and it's one of the most unnerving yet intriguing and haunting psychological dramas I've ever seen. And it's definitely one of my favorite movies of 2025. 9.5 out of 10 or an 8. I really recommend this one.
Next up, we have Is This Thing On? And Bradley Cooper's latest is fine. Story about Will Arnett venting his midlife crisis through stand-up features fine performances. It's most interesting when he actually does become the semi-famous through his comedy acts. And it's also competently directed and shot. However, I didn't really care much for the main story, and the actual midlife crisis goes through the motions of a movie like this. So it's not bad by any means, but just a one-time watch for me. So seal of accuracy.
For me, I thought it was another great addition to Bradley Cooper's filmography, since this was such an honest, heartfelt, thought-provoking, and deeply moving character study on not just midlife divorce, but also on how art, especially stand-up comedy, can also be used as a coping mechanism from all the pain and trauma one goes through. And the fact that this is loosely based on the life of English comedian John Bishop is another reason why I was fully invested in the story throughout. The story felt highly engaging. Bradley Cooper once again does a brilliant job with the way he directed the film, especially with how he guides you through what the main character goes through as he experiences this fallen marriage and how he uses a stand-up comedy, despite not being good at it, as basically his coping mechanism from all the pain and trauma he's experiencing. And the screenplay that he, Will Arnett, and Mark Chappell wrote for the film was also brilliant. Not only due to its sharp dialogue and the characters also feeling like real people, but how it does a brilliant job meshing together, as well as balancing its comedic and dramatic tones very well, but how it had a lot to say with its midlife divorce, with its themes involving midlife divorce, and how you find therapeutic value in stand-up comedy. The acting was terrific. Will Arnett gives out one of, if not the best performance of his career as Alex Novak. Laura Dern was also fantastic as Tess Novak. Bradley Cooper was also brilliant in this movie as Alex's best friend, Balls. And everyone else, such as Andra Day, Amy Sedaris, Sean Hayes, Christine Ebersole, and C. Siran Hines, also delivered some great performances as well. And on top of the film having a great soundtrack, excellent cinematography, the editing was also very good. It's deliberately well paced throughout. And when it came to the film's humor, it works because of how sly and clever it felt, especially with some of the scenes involving Will Arnett's character stand-up that really get some very good laughs out of you. And without spoiling the film, it also has one of my favorite endings of 2025. My only problem I did have with this movie is that I wish they could have trimmed 8 minutes of it down, since there were a couple scenes in the second and third act that did drag the film down a bit. But that's really it. Overall, Is This Thing On? Features two fantastic performances by Will Arnett and Laura Dern, and it's honest, heartfelt, thought-provoking, deeply moving, and absolutely one of my favorite movies of 2025. 9.5 out of 10 or an A. I love this movie, and I can't wait to check it out again in the near future.
Next up, The Testament of Anne Lee. And the story about the controversial preacher in the 18th century is carried by a solid cast, especially Amanda Seyfried in one of the year's best performances. The music, cinematography, and production values make for a transcendent experience. Granted, it can be somewhat aimless at times, and the editing and pacing aren't always the most fluent, but still a unique experience I'd recommend giving a chance at least once. So I'll give it the seal of approval.
I absolutely love this film. As a historical musical epic on the life of Anne Lee, The Testament of Anne Lee was such a powerful, mesmerizing, and exhilarating portrait on religion and transcendence that captivated me from beginning to end. Mona Fastfold did an incredible job sucking you into this trippy yet mesmerizing journey involving Anne Lee and how she became the founding leader of the Shakers religious sect in the 18th century. The story felt absorbing and well-structured. Mona Fastfold's directing was terrific, and the screenplay that she and Brady Corbett, who, by the way, also did The Brutalist, which was my number 2 film of 2024, if you guys remember. But that's besides the point. But yeah, both these two, the screenplay that these two wrote for the film was brilliant, especially with how it had a lot to say involving religion and transcendence. The acting was terrific. Amanda Seyfried gives out what might be her best performance yet as Anne Lee. What makes her performance so special isn't just how powerful and compelling it felt, but how she brings a lot of energy to her character as well. And the fact she was snubbed, she was snubbed she was snubbed the Best Actress Oscar, really pisses me off to no end because she was that good. Like, really, Oscars? You snubbed her?
And yet they nominate Rose Byrne and Kate Hudson for good but not great performances. Take out those and put in Amanda Seyfried and also Chase Infinity from One Battle.
Rose Byrne, I completely disagree with because that is one of the best performances I saw from 2025. But as for Kate Hudson, yeah, take her out and replace her with Amanda Seyfried. Thank you very much. Thomasin McKenzie, Lewis Pullman, Stacey Martin, Tim Blake Nelson, and Christopher Abbott are also brilliant in the film as well. The soundtrack was excellent, especially with not only how powerful Daniel Blumberg's musical score felt, but also how original and compelling the songs felt as well. The cinematography is nothing short of spectacular and one of the best I've seen in 2025. It's very well paced throughout. This also has some of the best productive values and costume design I've seen in the movie in 2025, especially since they do make you feel like you're back in the 18th century. And the third act and ending both floored me with how powerful and cathartic they felt. My only problem I did have with the film is that there were some editing choices the film makes that did come across as being uneven at times, but that's it. Again, same problem I have with Lurker. Some uneven editing choices, but that's really it. Overall, not only does The Testament of Anne Lee feature Amanda Seyfried giving such an extraordinary performance as Anne Lee, but it's also one of the most powerful and mesmerizing films I've seen in 2025, and it's one of the best films of the year as well. And like Lurker and it's staying on, it's also getting a 9.5 out of 10 or an A. I really loved it. I highly recommend you guys check it out. It might not be for everyone, given how trippy it is sometimes, but I really loved it and I really recommend it, especially for Amanda Seyfried.
You got the plague.
What?
You got the plague next.
Oh yeah, the plague. I'm sorry. I forgot. That's right. I forgot I had. I forgot I have to talk about the plague next. But yeah, the plague is the next movie I'm going to talk about next. It's the next movie I'm going to talk about. What is the plague about? It's about a socially awkward tween who endures the ruthless high hierarchy at a water polo camp. His anxiety spiraling into psychological turmoil over the summer. So, I saw the trailer. When I saw the trailer for this at my Showing Up Sentimental Value back in November, I was really interested in checking it out, given how not only Joel Edgerton was in it, but the film's premise giving out the Lord of the Flies vibes, only with it being set in a water polo swimming camp in 2003. And after finally seeing it, I am very happy to report that I really love this one. For Charlie Pullinger's first time writing and directing a feature film, he did an incredible job crafting such a gripping, chilling, and poignant portrait on adolescence, as well as a cautionary tale on bullying and peer pressure, especially with how kids, especially boys, can be real dicks to others that are different. Just because one is different compared to the others. And it made the experience of watching the plague unnerving, yet unforgettable and haunting. And because of how it presents a cautionary tale involving bullying and peer pressure, this is one of those movies that succeeds so well in being an anti-bullying film. It's well directed. The screenplay was brilliantly written not only with how real the characters felt and how sharply written the dialogue felt, but it also does a brilliant job exploring its themes on adolescence, bullying, toxic masculinity, and peer pressure. The story felt haunting and gripping. The acting was terrific. Everett Bluntnick. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but he plays Ben in the film, and this is one of the best breakthrough performances I've seen from a child actor in 2025. K.O. Martin was fantastic as Jake. Although you hate his character because of who he represents, Martin's performance was so powerful that this is one of those characters you love to hate. And despite not being in the film that much, Joel Edgerton nevertheless delivered such a brilliant performance as Daddy Wags. The musical score felt both eerie and haunting. The cinematography was fantastic. The editing was great. It's deliberately well-paced throughout. The tension felt real, mainly due to the film's uncomfortably eerie and anxiety-filled atmosphere. Apparently, the director was inspired by Stanley Kubrick's movies like The Shining and Full Metal Jacket, and this definitely shows with this, especially with how it looks. It's got excellent sound design, and although it's more of a psychological coming-of-age drama thriller, there are some body horror aspects shown in the film that actually felt unnerving and in a good way and chilling. My only issue I did have with the film is that, without spoiling it, I did not like the ending. While I understood the decision and the metaphors behind the ending, I just wasn't a fan of the way the ending turned out due to how rushed it felt. But that's really it. This was a damn great movie. Overall, The Plague is gripping, chilling, haunting, poignant, and definitely one of the best of 2025. One of the best movies of 2025 for sure. 9.5 out of 10 or an A.
Next up, The Secret Agent, and this movie's getting a lot of praise between its Cannes premiere and winning both the Critics' Choice and the Golden Globe for Best Foreign Film. And in a year that's given us It Was Just an Accident, No Other Choice, which we'll get to later, and Sentimental Value, I honestly don't get it. I mean, the movie itself is well shot with its stunning production values, and the music is also good. I saw the performances, and there are some tense scenes here and there. However, I found to be just a mess with so many story beats to juggle, with showing me not really connected to the characters. Not just that, why did this have to be 160 minutes long? Because
that was my only issue I had with the film as well.
Overall, in spite of solid performances and production values, this is just too overlong and all over the place to really connect with me. So, in the words of Jeremy Johns, this movie is a tour de force. Sea of accuracy.
I really love this film, but it's not my pick for the best international feature. But it's not my pick for the best foreign language film of the year. Sentimental Value, and it was just an accident, like neck and neck. But and we'll get to those when we get to my top 10. But that's besides the point. Regardless, I thought The Secret Agent was a compelling and thought-provoking historical political drama on societal corruption and resistance that had me invested and intrigued from beginning to end. The director did such an incredible job capturing what life in Brazil was like in the 1970s, just like how I'm Still Here did so last year, when it was under military dictatorship, while giving us such a complex and ambitious story that made this such an overwhelmingly unforgettable experience. I was invested in the story. It was well directed. The screenplay was excellent, especially with how it had a lot to say with its themes on resistance, censorship, and societal corruption. The acting was brilliant, especially from Wagner Moura, who delivers one of the best and most compelling performances I've seen from a lead actor in 2025 as Armando. It's got an excellent soundtrack, fantastic cinematography, great editing. It's deliberately well paced throughout. The production values and costume design are both excellent, since they do make you feel like you're back in the 1970s. There are some tension-filled and suspenseful moments in the third act that have me on the edge of my seat. And it has one of my favorite endings of 2025. Now, if I did love this movie this much, why isn't it a 10 out of 10? Well, as stated before, my only issue I had with the film is that it was 10 minutes too long. Especially since there were a couple scenes in the second act that did drag the film down a bit, but that's really it. Overall, The Secret Agent is one of the most compelling and thought-provoking films I've seen this entire year, and it's hands down one of the best movies of 2025. 9.5 out of 10 or an A, and a very high one at that.
Finally, we got to No Other Choice, and not since 2019's Parasite has a movie given me such an experience as this. Story about a recently laid off family man who goes through desperate measures to get this new one is perfectly paced and brilliantly written. Solid performances, especially a standout Lee Byung-hung, and brilliant editing and haunting music, and it perfectly combines drama with social satire, and the ending really left me speechless. It's sure to be one of the very best films of the year, which I'm giving the Seal Cinema.
I definitely agree with you, Søren. This was one of the best movies of 2025. Definitely agree with you on that. And yeah. Park Chan-wook crafted such a dark, twisted, yet compelling, thrilling, and entertaining film that not only serves as a brilliant takedown on capitalism, but also such a fascinating portrait on identity, personal worth, and family devotion and infidelity that captivated me from beginning to end. And it made this such an enthralling experience as a result of this. The story felt well structured and engaging. Park Chan-wook's directing was excellent, and the screenplay was excellent too. Not thanks to not only its sharp dialogue and excellent characterization, but how it does a brilliant job exploring on those themes I just mentioned just now, as well as providing clever social commentary on capitalism. The acting was terrific, especially from Lee Byung-hun, who delivers such a fantastic performance as Yu Man-soo, and the same could be said for Yem Hai Ran as Lee Era. I'm terrible. I'm terrible with pronunciations. I apologize. The musical score was brilliant. The cinematography was fantastic. The editing was excellent. It's very well paced throughout. The tension felt real. And when it came to the film's humor, it worked because of how dark and twisted, yet witty and clever some of the dark comedy felt. It's got terrific sound design. And as for the ending, the way it ended couldn't be any more captivating and satisfying than that. Yeah, overall, No Other Choice is absolutely one of the most twisted, yet remarkably compelling, thrilling, and entertaining films I've seen in 2025, and it's easily one of the year's best films. Of course, this is the final movie of 2025 to earn a 10 out of 10 or an A plus, baby. Yep, 10 out of 10. I highly recommend. We both recommend you check this one out. It's one of the best films of 2025. Well, now now we're done with 2025, and now the only thing we have left is to cover the best films of 2025, which we're going to go over right now. So before we do, here's a couple of ground rules we need to lay out. Number one, we didn't see every film that came out in 2025. So films like Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, as well as like Arco and a couple other 2025 films won't be on the list. So will not be on the list. And second, as stated before in our worst films of 2025 list, this is just our personal opinion for what we feel are the best movies that we saw in 2025. If you disagree with any of the choices on the list, that's totally all right. Remember, there is the comment section. There's always the comment section where you can comment on what the best movies you saw in 2025 are. And before we get to number 20, we're going to go over our honorable mentions. So, Søren, you go first.
Honorable mentions are as follows. Death of a Unicorn, which I found one of the more underrated A24 films. Predator Badlands, which was just topped by another film we'll get to the actual list. Train Dreams, M3 2.0, Rust, Last Breath, Havoc, The Surfer, a movie that I never in a million years never thought would make it on my best list, Friendship. The Penguin Lessons, Captain America Brave New World, to me the best Marvel film this year. 28 years later, Richard Linklater's Nouvelle Vague and Blue Moon, Karate Kid Legends, arguably the top maverick of martial arts, My Supreme with Timothy Chalamet for the Oscar this year, Hamnet with Jessie Buckley shoo-in for her Oscar, and a final chapter which wasn't as great as the other ones, but still pretty great. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
All right, so my honorable mentions are Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Yeah, it's not as amazing as like the other ones, but I still really love this film regardless. Superman, Predator Badlands, Rental Family, Friendship, Materialist by Celine Song, Splitsville, Mickey 17, 28 Years Later, Wes Anderson's The Phoenician Scheme, Warfare, Bring Her Back, Together, The Plague, Lurker, Roofman, F1, Is This Thing On? The Testament of Van Lee, and finally the movie I originally gave an A+ to, but now I dropped it down to an A because my only issue I had with it is that there are some tonal issues in the beginning, but still, this was a great movie nevertheless. Mike Flanagan's The Life of Chuck.
And with that out of the way, on to the top 20.
All right, you go first, dude.
Number 20 is the movie that better win Best Foreign Film over The Secret Agent this year, and that's Sentimental Value. Between this and The Worst Person in the World, Joaquin Trier is looking like the better Trier in the film business. You hear that, Lars? And this movie delivers on a compelling story about what happens when a man leaves his wife and kids for his work, only to return years later. With stellar performances all around, this movie is one of the better foreign films of the year, and my 2020 best all around.
My number 20 is a movie that landed in my best films of the summer list, and it was the best comedy. It was the best mainstream comedy I've seen in years. Number 20, The Naked Gun.
I'll get to that later.
The Naked Gun isn't just one of the best comedies I've ever seen, but one of the better comedy sequels I've seen in quite some time. This is one of those comedies where not only did it have me laughing so hard at all the jokes that were thrown at me from beginning to end, but it also appeals to everyone, no matter what generation you come from, whether one is an elderly, an adult, a teenager, or just a kid. And that's why we need more comedies like The Naked Gun. Liam Neeson absolutely delivers one of his best performances yet as Frank Drebin Jr., especially with some of the line deliveries he had that made me laugh so hard. Pamela Anderson, who was brilliant in The Last Showgirl, also delivers what is quite possibly her best performance of her career as Beth Davenport, and she and Neeson have such great chemistry as well. Paul Walter Hauser was great as Ed Hawkins Jr., while Danny Houston was also brilliant as the Elon Musk-like villain named Richard Crane. And on top of the film having great directing, a brilliant screenplay, good story, excellent score by Lauren Balfe, as well as terrific cinematography, 95% of the jokes landed very well, especially with how well executed the amount of visual gags, as well as potty mouth, slapstick, and dark humor felt to the point where it had me laughing so hard. And there were a couple of jokes thrown in the film that caught me off guard, and in a great way, I should add, that not only did it make me realize, holy shit, there are still some filmmakers out there who are willing to take a risk in making these types of jokes, but it also made me wish other filmmakers nowadays would do the same thing, no matter who they offend. Yes, humor again, humor is subjective. I'm not going to deny that. But comedy is also about challenging people, too. If you laugh, then it succeeds. But if you didn't laugh, then it doesn't work. And with the comedy, The Naked Gun 2025, it certainly worked because of how much it made me laugh so hard throughout. And I also found the third act to be exciting, entertaining, and thrilling. And the way it ended was also brilliant. Yes, 5% of the jokes they threw in the film didn't quite hit as hard as they would or fell flat. But that's really my only small gripe with the film. Overall, The Naked Gun is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. I've seen this decade so far, and it's absolutely disturbing. And it's a good way to kick off the top 20.
All right, number 19 is the latest film in the Knives Out trilogy, Wake Up Dead Man.
And I'll talk about that in a little bit.
While Looper and The Last Jedi were the movies that first put Rian Johnson on the map, these movies cemented his talent and given us twisty mysteries, also directing and solid cast. Top it up with a dash of religious trauma, and you got what an argument can be made is the best film of said series. And I'm eager to see what Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig have next. Hence the number 19 spot.
My number 19 was a film I originally did not plan to have in my top 20. It was originally going to be my honorable mentions. But then I thought about this movie even more, and I'm like, this is not only the best Stephen King. This is not only one of the best Stephen King book the film adaptations I've ever seen, but it's one of the best. But it's absolutely one of the most powerful films I've seen in 2025 as well. Number 19, The Long Walk.
I'll get to that later.
The Long Walk isn't just one of the best film adaptations of Stephen King's material I've ever seen. It's also a devastating, yet powerful, intriguing, and poignant character-driven portrait of survival, companionship, control, and the dangers of corruption and authoritarianism that not only blew me away, that not only blew me away, but emotionally impacted me by the time the film ended as well. I gotta give huge kudos to Francis Lawrence and director Francis Lawrence and writer J.T. Mulner for crafting a movie that not only feels like a great mix between Stand By Me and The Hunger Games, but also crafting a timely, emotionally charged, and theme-layered story that couldn't have come out at such a better time, especially given what's been going on over the past year. Cooper Hoffman delivers such a compelling performance as great, and I can't even begin to describe how. Yeah, Cooper Hoffman was compelling as Ray. I loved David Johnson as Pete, and the chemistry and banter between him and Cooper Hoffman is nothing short of outstanding, since it made me buy the bond and brotherhood that these two leads had. Mark Hamill, though, what a fucking performance he gave as the Major. You fucking hate this guy so much because of who he represents. But his performance was so powerful that this is one of those characters you love to hate. And on top of the film being well-directed, well-written, and having such a simple yet theme-layered and intriguing story, as well as a haunting musical score, fantastic cinematography, great editing, and great editing. The film is also filled with non-stop tension and suspense. I can't even begin to describe how many times I was on the edge of my seat throughout, wondering which one will survive and which of these characters will bite the dust. And as for the kills, wow! Like, it's one thing to have real tension, suspense, especially when a character is going to die because of a mistake he made. But it's on a whole nother level when the kills are so effective because of how it had brilliant use of practical effects added to the mix. And of course, it has one of the most unexpected twists and endings. One of the best and most unexpected twists and endings I've seen in a film in 2025. Again, no spoilers, but it really caught me off guard. Now, the only reason this is only at number 19 on the list instead of in the top 15 is because this is a difficult film for me to watch again, given its subject. But that's really it. Overall, not only does The Long Walk work as a devastating yet powerful, intriguing, and impactful character-driven survival thriller, but it's also one of the best film adaptations based on Stephen King's material I've ever seen, and that's why it's number 19 on my list.
Number 18 is a movie about underdogs, for underdogs, and that's The Luckiest Man in America. It's a true story about Michael Larson's infamous skill on a game show. It's brought to life through one of Paul Walter House's finest performances, as well as a brilliant writing and perfect pacing. It's one of the most overlooked films of the year, and one I hope gets more attention for years to come. And that's why it's my number 18.
My number 18. What would a best of list be without a Yorgos Lanthimos film? At number 18, I have Begonia. After his last film, Kinds of Kindness, disappointed me, despite how after his solid but disappointing Kinds of Kindness, Yorgos Lanthimos made a rebound with this one, Begonia. And not only does Begonia work as a social commentary that exposes and critiques the nature of capitalism, greed, and conspiracy theories, but it also works as a twisted yet hilarious, absorbing, mesmerizing, and poignant portrait involving the dangers of alienation and control and the search for meaning in a chaotic world that had me invested from beginning to end. And this is one of those movies where after you see it, it stays with you while also making you wonder, is humanity really failing, and are we to blame for this? And between this, as well as The Lobster, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, The Favorite, and Poor Things, it shows on why I feel Yorgos Lanthimos is one of the finest filmmakers in the film industry. Not only was it well directed, and not only was Will Tracy's screenplay so brilliantly written, especially with how it had a lot to say when it came to its social commentary, and how it balances its, but it also balances its thriller and black comedic tones so successfully. The story felt well structured and gripping. The acting was terrific, especially from Emma Stone, who delivers one of her finest performances yet as Michelle Fuller. And the same could be said for Jesse Plemons' Teddy Gatz. The score felt, and on top of the film's powerful score, spectacular cinematography, especially with the way it's shot in VistaVision, excellent production design, solid editing, chilling and suspenseful moments in the film, and the film having some chilling and suspenseful moments that had me on the edge of my seat throughout, and the film's comedy being twisted and absurd yet witty and clever. I really loved Begonia's ending. Not only was it shocking and dark, but also very funny and also deeply moving. My only issue I did have with the film is that the twist was pretty obvious, but that's really it. Overall, Begonia features two Oscar-caliber performances by Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons, and it's one of the most twisted, yet absorbing and mesmerizing films I've seen in 2025, and that's why it's number 18 on my list.
Number 17 is a bearer of Steven Soderbergh's films this year, Black Bag,
which I'll also mention in a little bit.
At the present, left much to be desired. This movie manages to pull through as a spy drama about Michael Fassbender forced to decide who to trust for co-workers. Certainly satisfied me with its solid performances, pacing, and sense of tension throughout. It's another one I hope it gets a cult following soon, and it's my number 17.
Number 17 was a film we just reviewed. We had reviewed we had reviewed. Søren didn't love it, but I did, and it's The Secret Agent. Again, like I stated before in my review, The Secret Agent is a compelling and thought-provoking historical political drama on societal corruption and resistance that had me from beginning to end. The director did such an incredible job capturing what life in Brazil was like in the 1970s when it was under military dictatorship, while also giving us a complex and ambitious story that made it such an overwhelmingly unforgettable experience. The acting, especially from Wagner Moura, was fantastic. It's got an excellent soundtrack. It's well directed. The screenplay was excellent. The cinematography was fantastic. The story felt complex, well structured, and engaging. It's got great editing. It's deliberately paced throughout. The film's production values and costume design are both terrific, since they make you feel like you're back in the 1970s. And on top of the film, having some tension-filled, suspenseful moments in the third act that had me on the edge of my seat throughout, it also has one of my favorite endings of 2025. Now, again, the only reason this is number 17 on the list and why it's a 9.5 out of 10 is because, again, it was 10 minutes too long. But that's it. Overall, The Secret Agent is one of the most compelling and thought-provoking films I've seen in 2025, and that's why it's number 17 on my list.
Number 16 is a movie I was late to the game for, but barely the narrow, I guess. Weapons.
Which I'll also mention in a little bit.
The story about the disappearance of several children features a slick directorial style and a fantastic and distinct cast of characters that make it feel like one of the best Stephen King movies not made by Stephen King. It's bound to stay in my mind for years to come, which makes me glad that I saw it enough to name it my number 16.
My number 16 film is one of the films you just mentioned, Søren. Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Mystery. Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Mystery isn't just another hey Eddie, welcome to the podcast. And same thing with you, Justin Williams. And Metal End fan. Okay. Yeah. Welcome, guys. But anyway, as I was saying, Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Mystery isn't just another great mystery film. It's also another fantastic installment to the Knives Out movies, due to mixing the formula by having it take place in a church to give it more of an Edgar Allan Poe gothic like feel that makes it not only refreshing but also such an enthralling and intriguing experience. And it shows on why Rian Johnson is one of the finest filmmakers working today. And to you haters out there, suck it. The story felt well structured and intriguing. Rian Johnson's directing was excellent. The screenplay was brilliant. The acting, especially from Josh O'Connor, Josh Brolin, and Glenn Close, was terrific. The score was brilliant. It's got fantastic cinematography, great editing. It's deliberately well paced throughout. It's also funny at times, especially with some moments of dry humor sprinkled into the mix. Its gothic atmosphere was well executed. It definitely fits the tone of the film, and of course, the mystery itself, the way it was structured and executed, was very well done. Especially with how it kept me on the edge of my seat, guessing until the big reveal. And not only was the reveal surprisingly unpredictable, but it also had one of the most satisfying endings of 2025. Yeah, overall, I loved Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Mystery. It was intriguing, enthralling, and highly entertaining, and that's why it's number 16 on the list. Bring on more of those movies, please.
Number 15 is a reboot that more than outdoes the original film, Edgar Wright's Running Man. After Stephen King's original novel inspired a fun but cheesy 80s movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Edgar Wright does a second adaptation that's both more faithful to the book and thrilling on its own. Its acting is great, the direction is great, it's funny and action-packed, keeping me guessing up until the ending that a lot of people admittedly didn't care for, but I dug the hell out of it. It's probably the most underrated film of the year, and I hope it gets better recognition over the years, which is why it's my number 15.
which I was right there with you, dude, because I hated that film. Number 15 is another Netflix film, and it's the film that was nominated for Best Picture. Søren mentioned it in his honorable mentions, and it's Train Dreams. Train Dreams is such a powerful, meditative, and deeply moving drama about grief, trauma, memory, and isolation that not only had me emotionally invested from beginning to end, but also moved me as well. Movies like Train Dreams are why I love movies so much, because we not only watch them to laugh or cry, but to also be moved. And Train Dreams is exactly that film that gave me such an overwhelmingly moving experience. And the fact that this is by the same guys that did one of my favorite movies of 2024, which was Sing Sing. Really surprised me to no end. The story felt well structured and absorbing. Clint Bentley's directing was fantastic, and the screenplay that he and Greg Quaidar wrote for the film is absolutely one of the best of the year. Especially with how it had a lot to say when it came to exploring its themes on grief, trauma, memory, and isolation. The acting was terrific. Joel Edgerton delivers one of his best performances as Robert Greg Grandier. Felicity Jones, Carrie Condon, Clifton Collins Jr., and William H. Macy are also brilliant in the film as well. And Will Patton's narrating was terrific too. The score felt both haunting and elegant. The cinematography is one of the best I've seen in 2025. It's very well edited, deliberately paced throughout. The production values and costume design are both fantastic. And the sound design was absolutely magnificent. I mean, hearing the sounds of the birds, winds, wolves, etc. in the film really made me feel like I was in this forest. And it has one of my favorite endings of 2025. Overall, Train Dreams is powerful, absorbing, deeply moving, meditative, and that's why it's number 15 on my list.
Number 14 is another recent case of truth being stranger than fiction, Derek Gianfrancis Roofman.
Really good film.
Jeffrey Manchester's story is portrayed on screen through his funny writing, which is furthered by his performances by the likes of Channing Tatum, Kristen Dunst, and Peter Dinklage. It's sad to see it underperform as it did because it's one of the funniest films of the year, and it's my number 14.
Number 14, Søren mentioned it on his list, and it's my number 14. Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me a second. Give me a second to load this up. Give me a second. Hold on. There we go. Aha! There we go. Yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I absolutely love this movie. Not only do I consider Black Bag to be Steven Soderbergh's best movie in years, but it's also a stylish, seductive, and intriguing spy thriller about loyalty, relationships, and truth that really had me invested from beginning to end. This movie is very special because we don't get that many spy thrillers like this anymore, where it's quiet while also trying to be stylish, seductive, and intriguing. And that's why this one really stands out. On top of Steven Soderbergh's fantastic directing, the story felt intriguing and well structured. David Koepp's screenplay was brilliant. The musical score by David Holmes was and so was the musical score composed by David Holmes. The acting was terrific. Michael Fassbender gives out one of his finest performances as George. Kate Blanchett and same thing could be said with Kate Blanchett as Catherine. And the chemistry between her and Michael Fassbender was pitch perfect. Absolutely pitch perfect. It's got excellent cinematography, great editing. The slow burn pacing works very well. some of the film's tension-filled moments felt so real and intriguing to the point where it had me on the edge of my seat throughout some sequences. The payoff in the final act was fantastic, and the way it ended felt so satisfying. Yeah, overall, Black Bag is one of the most stylish, seductive, entertaining, and intriguing spy thrillers I've ever seen. And not only do I consider Black Bag to be Steven Soderbergh's best movie in years, but also my number 14 best film of 2025. And I cannot wait to see Steven Soderbergh's the Christophers next.
Number 13, speaking of one of the funniest movies of the year, now we get to the funniest movie of the year, The Naked Gun.
Great film.
In an era where the movies seem to have killed the genre, it takes a team of talented filmmakers and actors to prove that spoof movies can not only be funny but hilarious as well. Kudos to the writers, directors, and cast members for taking the spoof genre the right amount of seriously, at least until Scary Movie 6 inevitably ruins it again. But I'll worry about it when I get to it, but for now, Naked Gun's my number 13.
Number 13 on my list is one of the funniest, the most charming, and deeply moving dramedy films I've seen this entire year. The Ballad of Wallace Island. The Ballad of Wallace Island is such a funny, charming, and deeply moving dramedy about a folk musician who performs for a fan on a remote island that not only made me laugh, but also moved me like no other film has done in 2025. This isn't just a great movie about music and nostalgia. It's also such a poignant portrait on relationships, art, and self-discovery. The story felt highly engaging. James Griffiths did an excellent job with the way he directed the film. The screenplay was fantastic, especially with how it does a fantastic job exploring its themes on relationships, nostalgia, art, loneliness, and self-discovery. The acting was terrific, especially from Tom Basden, Tim Key, and Carey Mulligan, who all give off fantastic performances. And on top of the film's fantastic soundtrack, excellent cinematography, brilliant editing, great pacing, and the film's humor feeling witty and genuine, it also has one of my favorite endings of 2025. So overall, The Ballad of Wallace Island is one of the most charming, poignant, and deeply moving films I've ever seen, and that's why it's number 13 on my list.
Number 12 is the latest adaptation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, directed by Guillermo del Toro, who both explores the book's themes of humanity while also giving it his own spin in both the production values and characters, as portrayed by an outstanding cast consisting of Oscar Isaac, Jacob Elordi, Mia Goth, and others. It's bound to be a future classic and among del Toro's best, and it's my number 12 of this year.
And I'll get to that film when we get to my top 10. So stay tuned for that. All right, number 13 of my. Oh no! Wait a minute. Hold on. Oh yeah, number 12. I lost track for a bit for a second. Anyway, number 12 on my list is another film that you didn't love, Søren, but I did, and I have to disagree with you on the actress because she absolutely deserved that nomination. Number 12, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You.
Mm-hmm.
Not knowing much about If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You when I went into this, not only made this one of the most surprising films I've seen this entire year, but absolutely one of the most compelling, mesmerizing, and poignant films I've seen this entire year as well. This movie floored me, especially with how writer-director Mary Bronstein shows us the anxiety-fueled stress Rose Byrne's character goes through as a struggling therapist and mother trying to care for her daughter who's suffering from a pediatric eating disorder while also trying to get the bedroom ceiling of the apartment fixed after it has a big hole in it. This is one of those movies that really stayed with me forever and had me thinking about it for quite some time as soon as it was over. The story felt well-structured and gripping. It's very well directed by Mary Bronstein, and the screenplay was nothing short of brilliant. Especially with how it had a lot to say with its main theme involving the difficulties of motherhood. The acting was terrific. Rose Byrne gives what is quite possibly her best performance as Linda, mainly due to how raw, powerful, and compelling it felt. And the fact she's been nominated for Best Actress at the Oscars really pleases me to no end. ASAP Rocky also delivers such an excellent performance as James, while Conan O'Brien, Daniel McDonald, and Christian Slater, although not in it that much, are all great in the film as well. And on top of the film's excellent cinematography, brilliant editing, and the film being deliberately paced throughout, when it came to the tension the film displays, it worked because of how it shows the amount of stress and anxiety Rose Byrd's character goes through as a struggling mother and therapist. There are also some dark comedy moments that the film throws into the mix, and without spoiling it, let's just say the one scene that made me laugh so hard involved a hamster. Like a hamster. My God, that really caught me off guard. And yeah. And if there were words to describe the cosmic visuals the film throws in, it would be hypnotic and mesmerizing. And it has one of my favorite endings of 2025. So overall, If I Had Blades, I Kick You features Rose Byrne delivering one of the year's most riveting performances as Linda, and it's one of the most compelling, gripping, and mesmerizing films I've seen in 2025. And that's why it's number 12 on the list.
Number 11 is by far the best animated film of the year, K-Pop Demon Hunter. Nah, I'm just kidding, folks. I didn't exactly love it as much as most people. It's Predator Kill of Killers.
Yeah. By the way, I did see K-Pop Demon Hunters. 2 words. Overrated!
Yep, Predator Kill of Killers. Ever since Dan Trachtenberg took over the franchise, he's pushed it in full swing in the past few years with Prey, Predator Badlands, and this, which I deem the best since the original film. Between the 3 storylines it goes through, is consistently violently animated, brutal, and emotionally compelling with this cast of characters, only enough to a thrilling third act, which got me eager to see what this franchise has in store next. Hopefully, including Trachtenberg and Freddy Alvarez teaming out to make a third AVP movie that would be bonkers. So that's why Predator Kill of Killers is my number 11.
Excuse me. Excuse me for a second. Also, I have to apologize in advance because I had just gotten over like the cold, so if my voice is like it's like out of whack, that's why. Yeah. But anyway, number 11 on my list. Number 11 was my runner-up for the best film of the summer, and it's Sorry Baby. Sorry Baby was absolutely one of the most thought-provoking, absorbing, and deeply moving films I saw in 2025. Eva Victor did an incredible job crafting a quiet yet thought-provoking portrait on how one experiences trauma because of one very bad thing that happened to them and what they must do to move on from this. Eva Victor's directing was fantastic, especially with how she guides us through this journey involving the experience Agnes goes through, as well as how she responds, where her life goes from there, and how she has to adapt after witnessing this horrible and traumatic thing happening to her, as well as doing a terrific job taking the subject that's difficult about in a mature, realistic, and respectful manner. And her screenplay, brilliant. Not only due to how well written the dialogue felt and how real and fleshed out the characters felt, but how it had a lot to, but with how it balances its black comedic and dramatic elements of very dramatic tones very well, as well as exploring its main theme on trauma and how to deal with it, as well as other themes involving healing and the emotional bonds and relationships that carry us through. And on top of Eva Victor's brilliant, and on top of that, Eva Victor's performance as Agnes was absolutely remarkable, mainly due to how raw, powerful, and natural her character's reactions felt. Naomi Ackie was also brilliant as Agnes's best friend Liddy, while Lucas Hedges, Kelly McCormack, and John Carroll Lynch were also great in the film as well. What I also loved about Sorry Baby was how, even despite its dark subject matter, it wasn't afraid of being funny at times too. Like there were moments in the film's in the film, some lines of dialogue, as well as this one scene. Not going to give away what happens, but let's just say it involves a mouse that had me laughing so hard. And on top of the film's gorgeous cinematography and editing, it has one of my favorite endings of 2025 as well. Yeah, overall, Sorry Baby was absolutely thought-provoking, absorbing, and deeply moving, and that's why it's number 11 on my list. Well done, Eva Victor.
Number 10 is the Finnish John Wick itself, Sisu Road to Revenge. Much like the previous film 2 years ago, this movie had one job. Had this old man turn down his military enemies just to get the life he wants. And it more than delivered in spades thanks to the visual storytelling, solid performances, and brutal and fun as hell action. It's like a John Wick is an old man and is stuck in the middle of Fury Road, and I love every minute of it. So that's my number 10.
My number 10, Søren and I reviewed this one, and he's going to probably mention this one in a little bit. But I had to put this in my top 10 because how much the Oscars completely fucked this up at not nominating this one. Number 10, No Other Choice.
I'll get to it later.
Director Park Chan-wook, as I stated before, Park Chan-wook crafted such a dark and twisted yet compelling, thrilling, and entertaining film that not only serves as a brilliant takedown on capitalism, but also such a fascinating portrait on identity, personal worth, family devotion, and infidelity that captivated me from beginning to end. And it made this such an enthralling experience as a result of this. It's well directed, well written. The story felt well structured and twisted. The acting was terrific. The musical score was brilliant. The cinematography was fantastic. The editing was excellent. It's very well paced throughout. The tension felt real. The dark comedy felt dark and twisted, yet witty and clever. It's got terrific sound design. And the way it ended, absolutely satisfying. Overall, No Other Choice is absolutely one of the most twisted yet remarkably compelling, thrilling, and entertaining films I've seen in 2025, and that's why it's number 10 on my list.
Number 9 is by far the better Stephen King Mark Hamill film this year, The Long Walk. Who knew the director of most of the Hunger Games movies would be the perfect guy to helm this long-in-development hell Stephen King adaptation? Combining the coming-of-age of Stand By Me with the brutality of The Shining, this movie has something for any fan of King's work, especially with the compelling characters that you easily root for up until the end. It's an experience that's going to stick in my mind, which makes it an easy contender for number 9.
Number 9 on my list, and it makes me feel so good to put this director in my top 10 again, especially given that he's one of my favorite filmmakers working today. And to say this is his best movie in years would be a massive understatement. Number 9, Richard Linklater's Blue Moon. Not only does Blue Moon succeed as a biographical drama involving Lawrence Hart, a former colleague of Richard Rodgers, reflecting on himself on the opening night of Oklahoma, as well as going to my Dinner with Andre approach by having it be a stage talkie film set at the bar throughout most of the picture. But it's also a melancholic yet poignant and thought-provoking portrait of loneliness and the importance of love and beauty that really moved me from beginning to end. Richard Linklater's directing was brilliant. The screenplay Robert Kaplan wrote for the film was absolutely terrific, and I'm really happy his screenplay was nominated. Especially was nominated for best. And I'm really happy his screenplay was nominated for an Oscar because not only did the dialogue feel witty and well written, but it also did a brilliant job meshing its comedic and dramatic tones together while also having a lot to say involving its themes of loneliness, ambition, and the importance of love and beauty. The acting was fantastic. Ethan Hawke was fantastic. as Lorenz Hart, and that's thanks to the amount of energy and charisma he brings to his character. Although Lorenz Hart was a real person, I'm glad he was nominated for Best Actor. He absolutely deserved it. Margaret Qualley, Bobby Cannavale, and Andrew Scott are all brilliant in the film as well. The soundtrack was great. The cinematography was excellent. The editing was very good. It's very well paced throughout. It's got brilliant production and costume design. The humor felt sharp, felt dry and sharp, and the ending was brilliant. Overall, I loved Blue Moon. It features Ethan Hawke giving out one of the year's best performances as Lorenz Hart. And not only is the film this generation's My Dinner with Andre, but it's also one of Richard Linklater's most poignant, thought-provoking, and deeply moving films he's made in quite some time, and it's easily deserving of the number 9 spot.
Number 8 is the other film by Zach Cregger this year, Companion. Usually January 1st tend to blow, but
except Zach Cregger didn't direct it.
Yeah, he produced it. Usually January 1st tend to blow, but to say this is one of the rare exceptions is an understatement. The story about a get-together that goes horribly wrong is both thrilling and emotionally compelling thanks to a great cast, especially Sully Thatcher, and a smart screenplay that explores the relationship between reliance on AI and the deteriorating romance. Really one of the more overlooked films of the year, and is going into the number 8 spot.
That one came very close to being on my list. That one really did. Speaking of Zach Cregger, number 8, my favorite film of the summer, Weapons. Give me a second. Yeah, Weapons is my number 8. What a great film this was. What a great film this was. Shit. Hold on. Oh, God. Here it is. Here it is. There we go. Okay. Not only is Weapons another home run for Zach Cregger, but this is one of the best horror films I've seen this entire year as well. This was one of those movies where it had me on the edge of my seat throughout, with not only how intriguing and unpredictable the mystery aspects of the film felt, but with how powerful and terrifying and chilling the whole experience felt as well. And it shows on why Zach Cregger, between this and Barbarian, is one of the biggest voices in horror right now. The way the story was told in a non-linear narrative was very well executed, and Zach Cregger did an incredible job with the way he directed the film, especially with not only how he crafted the real tension and suspense, but with how he guides us through the characters' perspective of what they saw, given that one terrifying event. And as for a screenplay, terrific, especially since it does a fantastic job exploring its themes on grief, trauma, and power. Julia Gardner, Josh Brolin, Benedict Wong, and Alden Ehrenreich all deliver some of the finest performances of their careers, while Carrie Christopher delivers one of the best breakthrough performances I've seen this entire year as Alex. And Amy Madigan, I am so happy she's been nominated for Best Supporting Actress, because this is one of the very best performances I've seen from a supporting actress this entire year as Gladys. And when it came to the mystery aspects, it's, in these words, effective, intriguing, and unpredictable, since it keeps you on the edge of your seat while wondering where it's going to go. And is the film scary? Hell yes. Not only does the film deliver some real tension and suspense throughout, but once it builds up and elevates to a certain reveal, it actually freaked me out and scared me to no end. And it also has some of the most well-crafted scares I've seen in the horror film this entire year. Hey, to the makers of The Strangest Chapter 2, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, as well as Five Nights at Freddy's 2, take some notes from Zach Cregger. This is how you craft jump scares in movies. The third act was fantastic. Not only did it have me in the edge of my seat, especially with the resolution and how it all came together, but it also has one of the best endings I've seen this entire year too. Like the way it ended couldn't feel any more satisfying than that. Overall, Weapons is one of the best and most powerful, intriguing, terrifying, and unpredictable horror films I've seen this entire year, and that's why it's number 8 on my list. Well done, Zach Krager. Bring on your next film, man. I can't wait.
Number 7. This has been a very good year for foreign films, and this is another example. It was just an accident.
Which I'll talk about when I get to my either 6 or 5.
Right director Jafar Panahi went through hell to bring this movie to life, and it was more than worth it. This movie is both thematically compelling and thought-provoking in terms of its themes regarding Iranian politics, and a tense experience throughout thanks to sharp screenplay, direction, and performances from the cast, keeping me on my toes from to the tense ending. And it's a really good contender as my number 7.
My number 7, Søren mentioned it, and it's the best Netflix film of the year. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Frankenstein isn't just a faithful adaptation of Mary Shelley's novel of the same name. It's also a powerful and exhilarating gothic sci-fi film that blew me away. And it shows on why Guillermo del Toro is one of the finest filmmakers working today. The story felt well structured and gripping. Guillermo del Toro's directing was fantastic, and the same could be said with the screenplay, especially with how it does a brilliant job exploring its themes on the cycles of trauma, pride, and the consequences of unchecked ambition, and greed. The acting was terrific, especially from Oscar Isaac, who delivers one of his most powerful performances yet as Victor Frankenstein, while Jacob Elordi blew me away as the creature. He was so good as the monster that I would not be too shocked if he actually ends up winning the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for his performance. He is that good. And while he's not my pick, I could definitely see him winning. Mia Goth and Christoph Waltz are also brilliant in the film as well. The score by Alexander Desplat is one of the best I've heard this entire year. Dan Lauston's cinematography was absolutely outstanding. It's got great editing. It's very well paced throughout its 150-minute run time. The gothic atmosphere works, especially with how haunting it felt. And despite it being more of a gothic science fiction, there were some suspenseful horror elements the film showed that actually had me on the edge of my seat. The production values and costume design are both spectacular, since they do make you feel like you're back in the 19th century. The mix of practical and CGI visual effects are both brilliant, and it has one of the most moving endings I've seen this entire year. Overall, not only is Frankenstein such a faithful adaptation of Mary Shelley's novel of the same name, but it's also one of Guillermo del Toro's best movies and one of the most powerful and exhilarating films I've seen this entire year. And that's why it's number 7 on my list. Well done, Guillermo del Toro.
Number 6, speaking of tense thrillers, we got one from Alex Garland, Warfare.
Great film.
Based on real events during the Iraq War, this movie really puts you in the middle of the action. Between the actors who make their respective characters feel real, to the great cinematography and use of sound, it really makes you feel like you're in the middle of a war with these characters, making for an immersive as hell experience. It's one of the best war films of the decade so far, and it's definitely one of the best of the years, specifically my number 6.
Number 6. Søren mentioned it on his list, and it's Søren mentioned it as his number 7, and it's my number 6. It was just an accident. It was just an accident isn't just a brilliant critique on authoritarianism. It's also a powerful, gripping, and intriguing portrait on revenge, memory, the consequences of one's actions, and moral ambiguity that not only had me invested, but also floored me to no end. And the film winning the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival back in May couldn't be any more deserving than that. Kudos to Jafar Pantanahai for risking his life on making a movie that not only felt powerful, but also timely given today's climate we're still living in. The story felt simple yet ambiguous and gripping. It's well directed. The script was fantastic, especially when it had a lot to say when it came to not only criticizing authoritarianism, but with the way it explored its themes on memory, the consequences of one's actions, and moral ambiguity. It's well acted, well paced. The cinematography was fantastic. The editing was great. I was also very surprised at how unexpectedly clever and well executed some of the film's dark comedy felt. The tension felt real, especially within this long 15-minute sequence in the third act that had me on the edge of my seat throughout. And it has one of the best endings I've seen this entire year, especially with how ambiguous it felt, thanks to this one sound that's made in the final shot. Like, wow. Overall, it was just an accident. It's one of the most powerful, gripping, and intriguing thrillers I've ever seen, and that's why it's number 6 on my list.
Number 5 is the best superhero movie of the year in a landslide, James Gunn's Superman.
Great film.
Long story short, this movie manages to make DC great again by not just giving us the Boy Scout hero people miss in the Snyder movies, but also feeling like a comic book brought to life with a stellar production values, colorful special effects, and ensemble cast who brings their respective characters to life. Got me excited for the future of DC, and it's a damn good kind of blockbuster on its own, which is my number 5.
My number 5, Søren mentioned it as his number 20, and it's my number 5. Joachim Trier's Sentimental Value. What Trier crafted here is nothing short of astonishing. Sentimental Value isn't just a love letter to filmmaking, it's also a poignant, beautiful, and deeply moving family drama about the complexities of family dynamics, memories, and the reconciliatory power of art that moved me from beginning to end. And it's films like this that make me realize why I love movies so much. When we're not just entertained, and when we're not laughing or crying, we also go to the movies to be moved. And that's exactly what watching Sentimental Value felt like to me. A truly moving experience. The story felt well structured and highly engaging. Joachim Trier's directing was absolutely magnificent and one of the best of 2025. The screenplay is also one of the year's very best, especially with how it does a fantastic job exploring its themes I just mentioned earlier. The acting was terrific. The actress that played Nora Berg, I would argue, gives out one of the best performances I've seen from a leading actress in 2025. Stellan Skarsgård was magnificent as Gustav Borg. And that states how raw and compelling he felt. It's got a great soundtrack. The cinematography was fantastic and one of the best of 2025. The editing is also one of the best of 2025. It's deliberately well-paced throughout. There are some very funny moments in the film as well, including Trier's brilliant jab at Netflix. And it has one of the best and most moving endings of 2025. Overall, Sentimental Value is one of the best and most poignant, beautiful, and deeply moving family dramas I've ever seen, and that's why it's number 5 on my list. I can't wait to see what he does next.
Number 4 is a contender for the most emotional film of the year, Rental Family.
Great film.
Story about an American actor who discovers a role-playing agency and gets attached to his job, lends to a ton of story and emotional potential, which it more than lived up to. The direction is solid and perfectly paced, but the things that truly rank it as high as it did are the writing that's brilliant and how it balances all the emotions within its runtime, as well as all the actors who pull it off perfectly. It's a movie I hope gets more attention than it initially did, as it's my number 4 best of the entire year.
My number 4 My number 4 was my number 1 for a very long time before 3 other films topped it. And as you may have guessed, number 4 on my list is Ryan Coogler's magnum opus, Sinners.
I'll get to that later.
Sinners is absolutely one of the most original, electrifying, captivating, and exhilarating films I've ever seen. Movies like Sinners are why I not only love going to the movies, but why I love movies in general. Once in a great while, we get movies that not only dares to be different compared to the others, but also succeed in being original and unique. And Sinners is definitely that film. By succeeding in being a wonderful mix of period drama and a Southern Gothic vampire horror film, this is absolutely one of the most original, unique, captivating films I've ever seen. And it shows on why Ryan Coogler is one of the best filmmakers working today. Not only was his directing terrific, not only was his directing one of the year's very best, since not only was his directing one of the year's very best, but his screenplay was as well. Especially with how well written the dialogue felt, how excellent the characterization felt, and how it does a brilliant job combining and balancing its period and Southern Gothic vampire horror tones very well, and successfully exploring its themes on racial violence and spiritual traditions. The story felt both unique and highly engaging. The acting was terrific. Michael B. Jordan delivers one of, if not the best performance of his career as the twin brothers, Elijah and Elias, or Smoke and Stack. His dull performance as those twin brothers is nothing short of just electrifying. And if he ends up winning the Oscar for his performance, it'll actually be well deserved. Although he's not my pick to win. We'll get to that. We'll get to that with my number 2 spot. But that's besides the point. Haley Steinfeld, Miles Caton, Jack O'Connor, Delroy Lindo also delivered some of the very best performances of their careers as well. The score was fantastic, and it's my pick to win Best Original Score of the Year. What I absolutely loved about the musical score was how it's also basically a character. Not only with the way it fits the tone and mood of the film, but with how it also plays a part in it as well. The cinematography was absolutely spectacular and one of the best of 2025. It's well edited, well paced, very well paced. It also has some of the best production values and costume design I've seen in 2025, since it really does feel like you're back in those times. It's got excellent sound design, and when it came to the vampire horror and vampire elements of the film, boy, did they work so well, because of how they deliver real tension and suspense that leaves you on the edge of your seat, just like it did to me. And the practical effects and makeup are also some of the best I've seen in 2025. Not to mention that one mind-blowing sequence in the middle of the film. Like, wow. And as I stated before, one of the best endings of 2025. Overall, Sinners is Ryan Coogler's magnum opus and one of the most original, powerful, extraordinarily captivating, magical, electrifying, and exhilarating films I've ever seen, and that's why Sinners is number 4 on my list. Well done, Ryan Coogler.
Number 3 is the current frontrunner to win the Best Picture Oscar, and I can totally see why. One battle after another.
Which I'll talk about in a little bit.
Paul Thomas Anderson continues to make masterpiece after masterpiece, and this is definitely among them. The story of Leonardo DiCaprio exploring the revolution to save his daughter is consistently compelling thanks to stellar performances from him, Jason Verdi, Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn, and the others, as well as the tight pacing and thrilling action set pieces from the opening to the climactic horror chase. It's destined to become a modern classic in the coming years, and it's easy to see why, as it's one of the most widely beloved films in a long time, as well as my own number 3.
My number 3 is the most emotional. It's the most emotional and compelling movie I've seen in 2025. Chloe Zhao's Hamnet. Chloe Chloe Zhao really outdid herself again with this one. Not only do I feel that Hamnet is her best movie yet, but this was also such a compelling, powerful, and deeply moving portrait on how art can be a cathartic way in coping with tragedy. Jessie Buckley needs to win Best Actress because her performance as Agnes Shakespeare is nothing short of heartbreaking and outstanding. Paul Mescal gives out one of the year's very best performances, since this is what is quite possibly my favorite portrayal of William Shakespeare thus far. Jacoby Drew is also right up there with Chasen's Vanity from One Battle After Another in terms of the very best breakthrough performance I've seen from a young actor or actress this entire year, since his performance as Hamlet Shakespeare is nothing short of magnificent. Emily Watson and Joe Alwyn are also fantastic in the film as both Mary Shakespeare and Bartholomew Hathaway, respectively. Chloe Zhao's directing was fantastic and one of the best of 2025. The screenplay she wrote is also one of the year's very best, especially with how it explores, especially with the way it explores its themes on grief and the importance of art. The story felt highly engaging and well structured. Max Richter's musical score is one of the very best I've heard in 2025 due to how beautiful, elegant, and haunting it sounded. The cinematography is one of the very best of 2025. It's got great editing. It's very well paced throughout. It also has some of the best production values and costume design I've seen in the movie in 2025. And without a doubt, the most emotional ending of 2025 as well. Yeah, overall, Hamnet is absolutely one of the most powerful, compelling, and deeply moving films I've ever seen. And not only do I feel it's Chloe Zhao's best movie she's made so far, but also why it's earning the number 3 spot on my list. Well done, Chloe Zhao.
Number 2 is the best foreign film of the year, which makes it baffling that it wasn't even nominated for the Oscar. No other choice.
Seriously, what the fuck, Oscars?
I already explained it earlier, so I'll keep it brief. Park Chan-wook's made a movie that manages to be thematically rich thanks to a brilliant writing style, performances, and rich filmmaking. It really is bound to be not just a Korean classic like Parasite before it, but also a classic on its own, which is why it's my number 2.
My number two was the most recent film on the list, and without a doubt, has this one particular actor who's my pick to win Best Actor. Number 2, Marty Supreme.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could see. There we go. Yeah, Marty Supreme. Marty Supreme isn't just one of the most relentlessly entertaining movies I've seen in 2025. It's also a powerful, compelling, gripping, and exhilarating portrait on one's ambition, ego, and identity that captivated me from beginning to end. Watching 2.5 hours of Marty Supreme was just nothing short of an insanely thrilling experience, especially with not only the goals Marty Mouse is trying to achieve, but with the amounts of insane conflicts he gets himself into that made the film so gripping and overwhelmingly powerful. This is one of the best directed movies of 2025. The screenplay is one of the very best of 2025. The story felt highly engaging and gripping. And along with Sinners, Hamlet, and another film I'm going to mention in a little bit, this has some of the best acting I've seen in 2025. Timothy Chalamet gives out what might be his best performance yet as Marty Mauser. What makes his performance so special isn't just how powerful and compelling it felt, but how he brings so much energy and charisma to his character to the point where it makes you feel invested in the journey he goes through despite having so much ego. Gwyneth Paltrow, Odessa Azan, Kevin O'Leary, Tyler the Creator, Abel Ferrara, and Fran Drescher are also fantastic as well in the film as well. The soundtrack was fantastic. The cinematography is incredible. One of the year's very best, especially with it being shot in 35mm. It has some of the best editing I've seen in 2025. And it's also very, and I mean very, well paced throughout. Since for a movie that's 2.5 hours long, it just flew by for me. The film's production values and costume design are both spectacular since it makes you feel like you're back in the early 1950s. There are also some brilliant moments of black comedy added to the mix, including this one scene involving the paddle that had me laughing so hard. And when I say that the film's tension felt both real and anxiety filled, I fucking mean it. Especially not only in terms of how anxiety filled the table tennis sequences felt, but with how insane and chaotic the conflicts the main character gets himself into felt as well. And speaking of the tennis table sequences, how they were shot, edited, directed, and choreographed is nothing short of just spectacular. And not only was the final act of the film an exciting thrill ride, but it also has one of the very best endings I've seen in 2025. Overall, Marty Supreme features Timothy Chalamet giving out his best performance by far as Marty Mauser. And not only is it one of the most powerful, compelling, gripping, exhilarating, and relentlessly entertaining films I've seen this decade so far, but it's also my runner-up, aka my runner-up as the second best movie I've seen in 2025. Josh Safdie, well done.
My number one was one of the hardest decisions I had to make, because even though 2025 has been a weak-ass year for film, I was still met with a lot of movies that really impressed me with its emotional storytelling with films like Superman and Rental Family, and still filmmaking with films like No Other Choice and It Was Just an Accident. But of all these movies, one film stood out as compelling, emotional, thrilling, and thought-provoking, and that film is Ryan Coogler's Sinners.
Great film.
He's already impressed me with the likes of Creed and Black Panther, but he somehow manages to outdo himself with undoubtedly his masterpiece. The concept of combining vampires in a Western setting is already a neat enough concept, but thanks to a rich historical commentary, stellar cast, gorgeous visuals, amazing musical score, and emotional story, it elevates it to a whole other level. It was a surprise blockbuster of the year for a reason, and it's bound to be talked about for years to come, and also for good reason. Rental Family may have been more emotional, No Other Choice may have been more twisted, but this movie stuck with me more than any other film this year, and that's why it's my number one film of 2025.
My number one film of 2025. Søren mentioned it on his list, and this was the moment I saw this back in early October. It stuck with me ever since. I saw this twice in theaters, and it really is the number one film of the year for me. Number one film of the year for me. I've been a fan of this director for a very long time, and the fact he's made his films like Boogie Nights, There Will Be Blood, Licorice Pizza, and The Master, and the fact that this is his best, as well as Magnolia and Punch Drunk Love, and the fact that this movie is what I consider his best movie to date, shows on why I feel this is battling Oppenheimer as being the best film I've seen this decade so far. My number one film of 2025 is Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, no film in 2025 captivated me and gave me such an enthralling and an emotionally impactful experience the way this one did. This was such a powerful, compelling, riveting, gripping, exhilarating, and poignant portrait of good and evil, as well as political warfare, extremism, prejudice, parenting, and the dangers of and consequences of power and authoritarianism that not only had me on the edge of my seat throughout, but also blew me away and gave me such an enthralling experience like no other film did in 2025. One Battle, and it shows on why I feel One Battle After Another is one of the most extraordinary films I've ever seen. from its well-structured, highly engaging, compelling story to Paul Thomas Anderson delivering the best directed film of the year, the best screenplay of the year, to the acting being absolutely magnificent. Especially with Leonardo DiCaprio, who Oscars, thank you for not snubbing him this time like you did last time with Killers of the Flower Moon. Thank you. To say he gives out one of his very best performances as Bob Burke Ferguson would be a massive understatement. Not only is his performance as that character so compelling and riveting, but he also had some funny moments in the film as well, especially this one phone call scene that had me dying of laughter. Like, if you've seen that scene, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Benicio del Toro also delivers one of his best performances yet as Sergio, and he had some funny moments in the film as well. Not to mention Virginia Hall and Teyana Taylor, despite not being in it that much, but that's besides the point, also delivers such riveting performances as well. But two actors, but Chase Infinity, and on top of that, you also had Chase Infinity, who delivers the best breakthrough performance I've seen from a young actress this entire year. Not only was her performance as Willa so compelling that when I left the theater, her performance was so compelling as Willa. Her performance as Willa was so compelling that when I left the theater, the one thing that came out of my mind was Chase Infinity was so fantastic in this movie that she has a bright future ahead of her. And finally, Sean Penn. Like, wow. What a performance he gave as Colonel Stephen Lockjaw. I am not kidding when I say that this is not only one of the very best performances I've seen from Sean. I am not kidding when I say that this is not only one of the very best performances I've seen from a supporting actor this entire year, but this is also up there with Dead Man Walking, Mystic River, and Milk as being one of Sean Penn's very best performances he's given out in his career. Even though you understand where his character is coming from and why he's like this, you still hate this guy because of who he is and how menacing and intimidating he is. But the best part about this is that Penn's performance as Stephen Lockjaw was so powerful that this is one of those characters you love to hate. Johnny Greenwood's musical score was terrific. It has the best cinematography of the year, especially with some of the shots, especially with this one car chase sequence towards the end of the film that had my jaw dropped, and the fact that this was shot with VistaVision cameras on a 35 millimeter movie film is absolutely spectacular. The editing is one of the year's very best. It's tightly paced throughout. For a movie that was 162 minutes long, it just flew by for me. It also wasn't afraid of being funny at times with its dry humor. Like, besides that phone call scene I just mentioned, there were other moments of the black comedy with its dialogue and the way some scenes are presented that not only caught me off guard, but had me laughing so hard as well. And as for the action sequences, wow. Like, not only are the action sequences in one battle after another absolutely spectacular, with not only with how they were shot, edited, and directed, especially this one chase sequence towards the beginning, but they also had me on the edge of my seat, especially with how much tension there was throughout. It also has some of the best sound design and editing I've seen this entire year, and when it came to its ending, to quote John Goodman from The Artist, perfect! Yeah, overall, one battle after another isn't just one of, if not the best movie Paul Thomas Anderson has done, as well as an extraordinary masterpiece. It is also one of the most powerful, compelling, riveting, gripping, and exhilarating films I've ever seen. This isn't just a fantastic movie. It was also an experience I will never, ever forget as time goes by. And it's bound to be a classic. And it's bound to be a classic as time goes by as well. And once it does, and it absolutely deserves it. And that is why One Battle After Another by Paul Thomas Anderson is my number one film of 2025. Paul Thomas Anderson, well done, sir. Well done for making one of the most extraordinary films I've ever seen. Well done. All right. Well, that'll do it for the podcast. And to answer your question, Carter, it's battling Oppenheimer for the best film I've seen this decade. That's how much I really love this movie.
I wouldn't really call Sinners the best of the decade. Mine is still The Substance.
Well, guys, yeah, The Substance was a great film, too. Well, guys, that'll do it for tonight's podcast. Hope you guys had a lot of fun watching it. I certainly did. I certainly had a lot of fun discussing all the 25 films one last time in a positive light. We'll be back this week. We'll be back next weekend on Saturday, as Søren and I will be going over the first round of movie reviews for 2026. And as always, be sure to subscribe to Søren's YouTube channel. The link is in the description below. Give him the love he deserves. He's a very talented reviewer and a great friend too. And check out his other podcast he's in called the Popcorn Panel Podcast. The link is also in the description below. And until we meet again this Saturday for episode 69, I'm going to end this like I usually end this. Thanks for watching tonight's podcast, and we will see you all again next time. Bye-bye for now.